came here because I want to talk about a major issue in all over the world, and I have learned to overcome it. And that's major clinical depression and anxiety disorder. Now, that's what I was diagnosed with, but what I mainly want to talk about is mental illness. So, in 2013, I was 18, just turned 18, just got out of high school, just graduated high school, and I was diagnosed with major clinical depression and anxiety disorder. I couldn't understand why I had this illness. I couldn't understand what caused this illness. I have my family together. When my grandmother was still alive, she was still living with us. There was just so many things I just couldn't understand why me. So I went to a physical therapist. To a psychiatrist. And I was told that I have major clinical depression and anxiety disorder. And I couldn't understand how I could have gotten the illness until I finally came out to my families without being disrupted. Anyways, so got major clinical depression. I was 18. Couldn't understand why I had depression or what caused the depression until I finally came out to both of my families, on my mother and my father's side. And they informed me, from my mom's side, that one of my aunts has bipolar depression and my other aunt has depression. So, and then one of my other aunts actually has just anxiety. Excuse me. So, coming to find out that it passed down to me, I was dealing with a very hard time. A lot of suicidal thinking, suicidal tendencies, and a lot of anxiety. Social anxiety, any type of anxiety you could think of, I've felt it. So I was put on... I'm so sorry. There's so many dogs. I'm trying to make a video and this is so fucking hard. I was put on antidepressants and I was put on anxiety medication. I was a guinea pig. They told me the medication that I'm gonna start, they don't know if it's gonna work with me. So if I start feeling even more suicidal and I start feeling like I'm gonna kill myself, well then there we go. It's not for me. So I was on the first medication, it was Prozac, and it didn't work at all. I got very suicidal and I had tried to kill myself. So they said, okay, now that one doesn't work, so we're gonna try a whole different one. I was on Cymbalta and lorazepam and Ativan, which was like a mood stabilizer. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember. It worked for 3 months. During these 3 months, I was involved in a religion that I'm no longer involved in, and I've been out of since 6 years ago. I've been out of it, and I'm very happy with myself and where I'm at in my life, and I don't plan on ever going back. And I had friends in this religion that I decided that I was going to leave my hometown, which is San Diego, and move to San Luis Obispo, where they lived. So I had friends in the religion who booked a flight for me the next day. I packed my stuff and I left. I left to the airport. I went to San Luis Obispo, and got there and it was raining hard as hell. I remember that. They picked me up. They were so happy to see me, excited that I was going to live with them, and I was excited too because I was with one of my best friends. And it was really good. I mean, I was still on the medication. I was still taking it. I was working over there at Albertsons. I had lived with my best friend's aunt, which was downtown of San Luis Obispo, so I was able to walk around everywhere and go everywhere because it was literally only like 5 minutes away from me. The reason why I left my hometown, the reason why I needed to get away, was for the mere fact of my parents didn't understand. They didn't understand that mental illness was real. They only thought that it was all in my head. And once they saw that this is real, I'm not making it up. It's an actual illness. It took time. So it took them three years, a full 3 years, to understand the illness, to fully accept the illness for what it is and know that, you know what, this is my daughter dealing with an illness that she's trying to manage at the same time. This isn't just a thought. This isn't just me thinking this way. This isn't just some type of me being dramatic or me being a drama queen. This is an actual illness that is trying to kill me. So I decided, well, while I was there in San Luis Obispo, I was there for some time, and then I was good. The medicine was working. Everything was working until it stopped working. And then when it stopped working, I said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep taking medication. I can't keep doing this and thinking that it's just gonna work or it's not gonna work. I can't be a guinea pig anymore. And then when it works and then it's working for 3 months and it stops, I have to do another one. Like, I can't rely on that. So that's when I decided to stop taking medication and fighting the illness heads on by myself. No medicine, no doctors, nothing. Just me learning how to deal with it, me learning how to cope, me learning how to do it by myself. So I ended coming back. I came back home after 3 months of living in San Luis Obispo. So in 2014, we're in 2019, 2014, I came back home. I came home, I left the religion, and I started dealing it by myself. I ended up in the mental hospital 3 times. And it's nothing that people assume or presume it to be. It's nothing. It's nothing where they will hurt you. It's nothing negative. It's actually a very positive atmosphere for people who have depression, anxiety, drug addiction, PTSD, just a lot of things going on internally with themselves and their minds that they need help with. So the first institution, or hospital I should say, that I was in, it was actually very saddening because of course I didn't want to be there. Of course I didn't want to end up there, but I did, and it was worth it. When I first got there, I was in the severity one, where you see a lot more severe people with mental illness. Then they transferred me to the less calmer one, where I had a roommate. And we had a system every day. I had to, we had therapists coming in to us every day. We had medication we had to take, which, mind you, of course I took it, but when I left, I didn't take it. I didn't want to take anything any of it anymore. But of course, with their process, you have to. So doing what it was for them to do what I had to do for myself to get out of there. Every time I was in a mental institution, I was there for a week. well, being in there, it taught me a lot. It helped me to learn how to cope, learn my triggers, learn what it is that can cause my triggers, and learning how to deal with it. So every time I went, I was appreciative. And I met friends, and I had, met new friends there. We kept communication, kept supporting each other like a support group. That was the first time I've tried to kill myself. And the first time I tried to kill myself, I tried using a knife. And that didn't work out. So I went to the mental hospital, dealt with it, learned with how to deal with things, how to find my triggers, how to cope, whatever it is, taking a walk, drawing, listening to music, dancing, whatever it is to keep my mind off of that negative spot. Second time, I was still going through a rough time. I was still in that religion, and I ended up in the hospital again. And every time I went, it's the same routine. So, you had the same programs, you had the same routine, wake up, eat breakfast, go to certain programs, had a therapist, taught me how to cope and do all that. I had, just so much, could go outside, play basketball. There was just so much, and it was the same process each time. Different hospital, but the same process and the same programs. So, with that, the second time I tried to kill myself, I took pills, and I started popping pills. And it didn't work, of course. Ended up in the hospital. Then ended up into the mental hospital and did the whole teachings again, learning my coping skills, learning my triggers. Was in there for a week, got out. Then I really started to know what I wanted in my life and who I wanted to be in my life. So I decided to leave the religion and focus on me. During that whole time, 2014, excuse me, 2014, I ended up being in a relationship, very toxic relationship, someone I knew from high school, and we liked each other in high school, but we never were together. And until then, 2014, until then, we got together, and it was a very toxic, abusive relationship. I was with him for a full year on, and then on and off for a couple of years. I would say actually a year. We were on and off after that a year. Still abusive, still, really bad. And, but during that time, he was a heavy smoker, and he smoked weed, so I smoked weed with him. We smoked marijuana together. Then that's how I figured, okay, I still had my depression. I was still dealing with my depression, but when I smoked marijuana, it helped me come to the stability in my mind to where I wasn't just going all the way down here. I was now right here. So I would never touch the lowest extent anymore. I never felt suicidal anymore. It stabilized me to the point where I could actually tell myself, I'm okay. I'll get through this. This is okay. It's only temporary. I'll get through it. So it helped me a lot with my depression. And it helped teach me again how to cope. I went back to the skills that I learned when I was in the mental hospital. So I used that, and every time, of course, I was a heavy smoker every day with him too, because, when you're living together with someone, you tend to become that person, and they tend to become like you. So it's kind of just like, and during those on and off times, it was very abusive. He would have his hands around my neck when I upset him. He would try to choke me out. He would put me against the wall. He'd be very abusive, very verbally abusive, call me out of my name, call me hoe, slut, bitch, shit, cunt, all that shit. Until I finally broke and I was like, I'm not gonna keep my mouth quiet anymore at all. I'm gonna speak up. So I called him a son of a bitch, and he got pissed. He spit in my face and then choked me out. But then he also kicked me out. Mind you, I paid for his rent that month. Mind you, I've done so much for this fool. Drove my car, wrecked it. There's just so much to that story, but we are not going to talk about that. It's part of the story, but I'll have another video about that later. And on and off for another year, I got very low one time, and it was during it was the day of my sister's wedding. Mind you, me and my sister don't have a relationship. It's non-existent. We don't talk. It's always been that way since I was a child. We've never talked. We never communicated. We never hung out. We never did things together. None of that. I don't have any memories of me and my sister actually doing anything. And if I do, it would be more of with the family, or just little to nothing of memories of me and my sister. And so, you know, even though I was going through my own problem, even though I got hit, beat, whatever the fuck it was, I decided to go to her wedding. Even though me and her were not talking, we had our time of sister rivalries and sister hatefulness and sister shit that every sibling will go through at a certain point. And I went up to her at her after they get married, the little like reception. I went up to her at her reception. She was drunk as fuck, had a blast with her husband and the whole family. I went up to her and I said, hey. And she just looked at me and was like, I don't want to talk to you right now. I don't want to talk to you. Broke my heart, because I was going through shit. I just got beat up. I just got spit in my face. I got so much disrespect that day from my ex that I still put an effort into trying to make things work with my sister. So it hurt. I cried. I bawled my eyes out. I went home and I called the hotline, the suicidal hotline. The girl on the phone, I didn't like the way she was talking to me, because I told her that I wanted to talk to somebody before I got to my lowest extent, which is suicide. And I didn't want to touch that. I didn't want to touch that surface anymore. I did not want to go to that spot anymore. I told her, I said, look, I know where I'm at right now. I'm at a low point, but I don't want to get to my lowest point. That's why I'm on this phone. Well, she told me, she had the nerve to say, well, this phone line is for people who are trying to kill themselves. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, you're telling me that you're not gonna help me out when someone who's telling you I'm at a low point, but I don't want to get to the lowest point. I don't want to get to a suicidal point. That you can't help me because I'm not suicidal. I hung up the phone, because I went from sad to pissed, because it wasn't fair for me. It wasn't fair for anyone to be put into a situation. They say, no, you can't talk to me because you're not suicidal. What? What if I merely just need someone to talk to? What if I merely need someone to just explain to me and talk to me and help me? Because I can't do it. And then on top of that, getting an appointment with a therapist is going to take 3 months? I could be dead before I even went to my doctor's appointment. You're seriously kidding me right now. So I hung up the phone. Don't ever do that. If you call a hotline, don't ever hang up the phone, because what happened to me is they will take the process of you hanging up the phone is telling them that you're gonna go kill yourself. So I hung up the phone, called my aunt, and the police showed up to my house looking for me, of course. And they go, my mom comes upstairs, she says, go downstairs. I said, okay. The police were there and they're like, are you Tatiana Harris? I said, yes, that is me. He said, we're gonna have to take you into the hospital. And I said, why? You know, this is all miscommunication. I didn't want to end up in the hospital. That's why I called the hotline. Like, you know, I didn't like the lady, so I hung up, which I shouldn't have done. I should have asked for somebody else to talk to. But he said, I know, I understand. This is just precaution. This is just what we have to do. This is our job. So I said, you know what? I don't blame them. The police have to do their job. I get it. So I just, what's the word? I cooperated. I don't know if I'm saying that right, or you know what I mean. So I decided, okay. All right. Let me get my ID, let me get my stuff. So he went upstairs with me and to get my stuff, and so we went upstairs to get my ID and everything I needed to take for me to go to the hospital. I was then put on a 5150. If you don't know, or if anybody doesn't know what a 5150 is, a 5150 is suicide. So I was put in the back of a cop car. Mind you, I've never been in the back of a cop car in my life. So when I was put in the back of a cop car, I was like, these seats are really hard. They don't make it comfortable for people, because of course when you do a crime, why make yourself comfortable when you did a crime? And suicide is a crime because you're doing it to yourself. Even if you're not doing it to anybody else, you're still committing a crime against yourself. And yeah, so I was sent to the hospital, just a regular hospital, evaluation, all of that. When you go into a hospital, for example, I'll just set the whole space clear for you. I was put into the hospital, had my own bed, my own room, but outside of my room there had to be security, which was like a security guard or just a whole nother person working there to make sure that I'm not gonna run out and fucking leave, or I'm not gonna try to hurt myself. I was on watch 24/7. Then they'll have a therapist evaluate me to see where I'm at mentally and see what's gonna happen. So I talked to the therapist, said this is all miscommunication. It's not what I wanted to happen. I did not want to go back to a hospital. And she said, okay, I understand. Blah, blah, blah. Period. You're still going to a fucking hospital and you're still gonna be getting a bed at the hospital. I said, great. Now I have to end up going to a hospital, the mental hospital, and wait to see a freaking therapist or psychiatrist to explain to them that I was not trying to be put there. I was not trying to do anything, and leave. So I ended up at the hospital, got my own bed, had to wait the next morning for me to be seen by a therapist psychiatrist. So next morning, talked to the therapist, talked to the psychiatrist, did all that I needed to do to talk to them, and left. I told him, hey, look, I was merely just trying to call the hotline to get help. I wasn't trying to hurt myself. I just did not want to go to that lowest extent anymore of suicide. I needed help. I wanted to have help. That's all I wanted. So they said, okay, go ahead, go on your way. So I left. Came back home. And still dealt with the depression. Dealt with everything. And slowly but surely, I learned how to deal with my illness. To the point where now, I no longer have mental illness. I no longer have depression. I no longer have anxiety. But don't get me wrong, it's a process. It's a process of elevating your getting at a higher vibration and a higher level of yourself, that you don't ever go down there again. So getting out of the religion, getting out of a toxic relationship, learning and dealing with my illness helped me a lot to know who I was and what I needed to do for myself to be happy. Because it was just showing me that depression is just showing that if you're not being happy, you need to be happy, whatever it is that makes you happy. We can't live for everyone. We can't live for our parents. We can't live for our grandparents. We can't live for our sisters. We are here to live for ourselves. We are here to be happy with ourselves. It doesn't matter who you are, what you want to be. It's merely your own happiness. So, I would say 2017, I learned how to cope. I learned how to deal with it. Yes, I still smoked weed. I still do now, but I don't smoke as much as I used to, because I'm at this point where I'm only going to use it if I need it. If I'm thinking too much, if I feel like, I'm anything I need, I'll take it as a medication. And it helped me a lot. It helped me a lot to come from a down here to an right here. And I learned what my coping skills were. I learned what I needed to do for myself, and I learned what my happiness was, and I learned who I was and what I wanted to be in life and who I wanted to be in life and what the type of person I wanted to live and the type of person I wanted to be. And learning all that and growing helped me a lot, to where now I'm here. Now I'm here to help everyone else. Now I'm here to show the world my story and help everyone get to learn my story. And not only that, but sharing it to help everyone understand that they can come out of it. It doesn't matter if you don't have depression or anxiety, or if you have even another illness, bipolar, whatever. You can come out of it. You'll grow. You'll become stronger. And you will be strong. It's a low point, yes. It's hard. But that doesn't mean that you can't get out of it. That doesn't mean that you won't get out of it. Everything takes time and everything's temporary. But learning what you need to do for yourself to get through it is going to make it 10 times better. Because now this illness is telling you to worry about yourself. Think about yourself. Put yourself first, because nobody else matters. Everybody else has their own life to live. This is your life. You don't let anybody tell you how to live it. You don't let anybody tell you how to cope. You don't let anybody tell you how to deal with yourself, when you know internally and your soul knows how to deal with yourself. You're never alone. You're never alone. Ever. You may feel alone. You may feel like you have nothing and no one. And I know that feeling. Trust me, I know it very well. With having family members not understand my illness, my parents, my own internal parents and my own sister not understanding. It's okay. They don't need to. They will eventually, but that's okay. Because in the end of it, you know there's people who will understand you. Like me. I will understand. I understand everything. There's nothing that I can't understand. There's nothing that I won't put myself in somebody's shoes to understand. Find the right people. Find the right help. And even if that means you want to go to a mental hospital to figure it out and get away from whatever it is, go. There's nothing wrong with that. I did that. I put myself there. Why? Because I knew it was the place that I need to be at that moment to heal, to get better, to elevate, to never get to that point ever again. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't think about it and I don't have those thoughts. I do. But it's just learning how to keep myself at the highest point and never reaching that point again. Yeah, I may have feelings and thoughts of suicide, but I don't act upon it. I don't allow it to overcome my mind. I just let that thought be there, and then I distract my mind by doing something else. Writing, reading, coloring, drawing, dancing, making music, whatever it is. I know how to never get to that level again. I may have times where I'm going to have those thoughts, but that does not mean that I won't overcome it. Excuse me. It just means that I know how to deal with it now. I know how to be at a higher level now. I know how to rise above my thoughts and quiet my thinking and shut the negativity out and put positivity in. That's either reading positive quotes every day, doing affirmations such as I can, I will, I'm strong, I'm powerful, doing meditation. All of that is self-healing. You're not being selfish by healing yourself. You're not being selfish by letting all the negativity leave your life and leave your mind and leave everything and bringing positivity in. There's nothing wrong with that. You're merely doing what you are supposed to do. And I applaud all of you guys and all of everybody who is doing that or who is now on the path of doing it. I applaud everybody who accepts their mental illness, accepts themselves, and keeps going. I applaud everyone to keep going. No, you're never alone, and you'll get through it. Out of the love of my heart and my mind, I love you all, and I appreciate you guys for listening to me. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'll be making a lot more. This is my first video, but you'll see more of me. Again, thank you so much for listening to my story and my life story, and I hope you guys can take it in as a positive, very bright light note, and keep going. I love you all. I'm here for everyone, and stay positive, stay focused, stay happy. Later.